If you don't know how your food gets put on your table, I go tell you to watch some documentaries on factory farming before you ever try to say anything about the way I very fast and ethically harvest my deer. Deer is one I got this weekend. He is nothing spectacular. So this deer I shot is kind of a cull deer. He was wounded, missing a foot, broken back, could hardly walk, hobbling all over the place. You can see his one antler is all screwed up because of his injury. I put him out of his misery and I'll get a little bit more venison for the family. We are going to European mount this guy. He has antlers and he's still a trophy that deserves to be honored. And I would like to practice my European mounts. Hopefully this goes nice and smooth. So what we're going to be doing right now is just we're skinning it. So we're going to skin him up, and then after he's skinned, the next process is going to be boiling because we need to get all the meat off of the skull. I'm not going to live stream the boiling process. It's literally just him sitting in a pot. We are going to skin him up, and then we'll boil him probably this weekend so I can be here to monitor. So when skinning these things, really, you don't have to do anything crazy. There is a YouTube video that I did doing this whole thing. Main thing is just get as much hair off as you can and as much flesh off as you can so it makes it easier for you. What I like to do is to start at the back by the ears, cut up, or right at the jaw and kind of work. So the big thing, if you're gonna process an animal, make sure you take the time to sharpen your knives. A dull knife means you're gonna slip more and you're going to cause wounds. You're going to hurt yourself. So sharpen your knife. It makes everything so much easier. And it's not just about, oh, I got a sharp knife. Like I said, it's a safety thing. So all I'm doing right now is skinning this, and then we're going to boil it to get all the meat off, and we'll have a real nice skull. And then I'll pressure wash them and then be able to mount them up. So I'll try to keep as much of the gross stuff out of the camera view as I can. You know, just you're all going to see some weird shit as we go here if you've never witnessed this yourself. So really the only meat in the head that you would eat is the back of the neck. There is a little bit of tough meat there, some stew meat, and the tongue. If you want to eat the tongue, some people eat it. I never have myself, but otherwise everything else on there is cartilage and bone. You know, some people use the brain material for tanning hides. Like if you want to use every single part of this, you can. And then obviously you could take like the lower jaw and boil it for stock, things like that. Yeah, it's not parts that the average person's gonna eat cheesy, let's just say that. I mean, a lot of people eat tongue. I mean, that's common. I don't really care for it. Hi, Gray. What do you mean you're sorry you've been a bad friend? So another thing, if you guys ever working on an animal that's hairy, so obviously there's a lot of animals that are hairy, but if you're working on animals like this, have a lot of hair and you're skinning them, best practice is to get on the underside of the skin and have your knife blade facing the hair. Then you're not cutting as much hair, and the whole area isn't just going to be covered with cut fur everywhere. It's not as important for something like this, but when you're trying to cut around meats that you're actually going to use, you don't want hair everywhere in the meat. So cutting on the underside of the skin doesn't cut the hair. A lot of people will just like start cutting this way, and you're cutting through hair to get to the skin, so then you start losing shit all over the place. So when you cut through the backside, it makes your life a lot easier. Clean up a lot easier, I should say, too. So, you know, you got the cat girls with their ears. No, it doesn't smell. It doesn't smell. It's only been 2 days and it's been mild weather here. So if I assisted a deer to taking a primitive nap and I wanted you to do these things and all, I can't mail you the thing right. So you technically can. The hard part is antlers. So you can mail this type of stuff because people do it all the time to mail it to taxidermists. Is you have to freeze it solid and then you buy dry ice and you put it in like a foam container, put it in the box, and you duct tape the living shit out of it, and you have to 2-day priority it. So a lot of times they suggest overnight air, but if you freeze it solid with some dry ice, you should be fine to just 2-day it. But don't pick slow ground service to try to get it to your taxidermist. That might not pan out very well. Okay, so the hardest part of this whole process is detaching the lower jaw, just because you have to deal with that socket up in there, which is obviously bone and cartilage. A lot of times, if I wasn't on camera, I'd just reef on it. But that's a little brutal, and I don't feel like doing that in front of all y'all right now. I'll just take my time. I mean, if you freeze it and it's fresh, it's not going to be any issue when it arrives. The issue is as soon as it thaws, it becomes a biohazard mass, and it's. I mean, at that point, you just have to treat it. You have to treat it like food, just like Omaha steaks. You know, you order Omaha steaks. That's how you have to send, basically, a deer to a taxidermist. Okay. So now we're halfway there. No, I'm not going to lick its tongue. Its tongue is really nasty. It's in the dirt and all kinds of stuff. If my phone wasn't the thing recording right now, Chrome, I would take a picture of the tongue, send it to you. Yeah, the teeth are pretty freaky. It's crazy for being omnivores how sharp these things are. I mean, they're technically herbivores, but they are omnivores because they do eat animal material when they need extra protein. But I'd say 90% of the time, they are just an herbivore, vegetarian animals. But they know when they're lacking, and they will eat birds, snakes, lizards, chipmunks, things like that. Now the freakiest part is once I get to this, there's just going to be eyes. You know, there's going to be a skull with eyeballs. So be prepared for that too, people. God damn it, Chrome. I saw that one quickly before she deleted it. I know that's not great deleting those messages, I'll tell you that much. Or Jimbo. You realize everyone's a mod in here? Jesus. The only ones that aren't mods are the Cheesy fam over there. Oh, and Yankee. Yankee stopped by and said hi. Oh, dude, the Kick app is on smart TVs now. I could totally be skinning a deer skull on someone's TV right now. You know how wild that is to think about? When you're a kid and you're watching hunting shows or something like that, and you're like, man, it'd be so cool to be that guy on the TV. People watching you do the shit you love. I'm halfway there. That's bonkers to think about. Thank you, guys. You didn't do 2 coats and you streaked with your top coat? Knife is starting to dull a little bit, but I think we'll make it through this. Because the hard part's basically over. What's wild is one day I'll eventually end up shirtless on someone's TV. in one of those like caught on camera shows. All I'm going to do is kind of clean up a little of the extra meat hanging off of here so I don't have to worry about all of this extra in my boiling pot. The less that's in there, in my opinion, the better. So then I don't have to. This stuff's all going to fall off in the boiling. Like if you're doing a bunch of these, this is completely unnecessary because it will all come off in the boiling pot. So I'm just getting a little extra off so I don't have to worry about it later. So fun fact, so I showed you all the teeth here on this white-tailed deer. His upper jaw and lower jaw are full of teeth, okay? Now, what's a wild animal fact is an elk. An elk, very, very similar to a deer in every aspect, obviously, except they're bigger. But an elk does not have upper teeth. They have no upper rows of teeth like this. All elk have is at the front where like a canine would be, they have 2 big ivories. And that's it. So if you take an elk, which I did this fall, you can keep the ivory. That is a legal form of ivory for you to obtain and have. It's yours. Because an elk is a legal game animal. Every part of your legally obtained elk is yours to keep. So I have ivory now, which is really cool. So now the next thing that I do is around the base of the antlers, I need to get this hair off. So what I do actually is I take usually a thicker knife. I got one that's a little bit bigger blade here because this one will flex. And I just come right in and I push in and just it peels right off. I get all these little tufts of hair off because the hair just won't fall off in the boiling process. That's something that it's going to stay on there. So you'll have to scrape it off afterwards. So you might as well scrape it off early, so then those areas underneath the hair can get boiled and sprayed off later, nice and easy. So again, this little practice here around the bases of the antlers is just a good practice to spend a little time now instead of having to do it after the fact. This is not the part of the deer I want to be eating. I'm sorry. Out of the whole thing, I don't feel like digging around by its brain, taking chunks out with my teeth, you know. Y'all know what I'm probably doing over here on this side, but I'm just not narrating this because it's kind of nasty. Obviously not to me or people who do this, but I don't know how everybody feels. I don't want to pretend everybody in here is not squeamish or okay with everything, you know. This is where my scalpel set that I have works a lot better. Again, if you're doing this yourself at home, you don't need to do this. It's going to come out during the boiling process, but I like to get as much as I can off so there's less shit in the bucket and less for me to have to clean up after the fact. So at this point, that is all I need to do for skinning them.